Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you for being with us today and meeting with the student media.
Well, thank you for the invitation, and thank you for the opportunity to have this discussion. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts, ideas, questions, and having a great dialogue.
At your presidential announcement, you talked about how your parents were in higher education. What led you to higher education, and what's kind of been your journey since you got to CMU?
Right. Well, my parents have been involved in various aspects of service. My father was in higher education, specifically. My mother was a nurse, a registered nurse, but very involved in, as a nurse, saw herself as not only providing health care, but educating her patients on health care and self-prevention and those type of things. My grandparents on my father's side were heavily involved in education in the high school levels as well as in the collegiate levels and the like. And so it really was one of those family type of things. And it really, education to me is about transforming lives. I, I talk a lot about finding your passion. And I think that's a message that I've been delivering fairly consistently, and I think it's very important. And when I went to my undergraduate program, I was a business major. I was headed off to Wall Street and stocks and bonds and financial trading and those type of things. I went and received my master's in business administration, and again with a very strong emphasis on going out and being a business leader. And I received a job right after my MBA program at a Fortune 500. Fortune at the time was in the top 50, actually. Well-respected institution, well-respected organization. In fact, was the envy of many of my peers. And 6 months into it, I knew it wasn't for me. And so I had one of those discussions with my father, who basically said, analyze your skills and talents. What do you like to do? And then what's your values and ethics? What's your passion? And think about those in three distinct areas. And where that Venn diagram comes in the middle, that's where you need to find your employment. That's where you need to find your career. That's where you need to find your occupation.
Your background is, like she said, interesting. And what led you into higher education? What led you to this point you're at right now at CMU? What made you want to come here and be the leader of our university?
Well, it's a great university to start right there. My career has taken me through many steps and valleys and in areas throughout the United States. I've been very, very fortunate. In each of those steps, been able to work at different types of universities and also increase the scope and leadership and the opportunities to transform lives. Started off in Reno, Nevada, and worked for Land Grant University. Then went to Metropolitan University. Then went to a Research One AAU highly ranked university. Then went to a comprehensive regional university as a vice president. Then went to a very small rural university. And when people talked about Mount Pleasant, and I said, well, my first university was about 1/3 the size of Mount Pleasant. But it was a very different university. It was one that served a very different type of population, strong online programs as well as face-to-face. Then was able to go to another university which was regionally ranked, comprehensive, and then now to a leading national research university with 23,000 students strong.
So one of the things that you talked about also at your announcement of becoming CMU's new president was how universities should be focusing on humanities and liberal arts as well as STEM education. A lot of times people are really focused on STEM education, but you talked about how humanities and liberal arts are very important. So why do you think that?
Well, I think when people get to know me a lot better, they're going to hear the word "and" more than not. They're not going to hear the word either or. It's not about STEM or humanities, STEM or the arts. It's the "and" part.
Mm-hmm.
And it's bridging those gaps. And it is how do we infuse creative thought, the arts, the humanities, the ability for research and collaboration, the essence of communication, the way of looking at problems and opportunities from different paradigms to find new solutions and new ways to seize upon those opportunities. It is those "and" situations that really enable us to work together. And so I don't see STEM as either or arts either or. It's how do we bring in the and part, and that's done through collaborations. That's done through curricular, ensuring that our undergraduates and graduates understand the importance of that. It is taking a full embrace of the notion of diversity. So it's not just uh, uh, about race and religion. It's really about difference of thoughts and ideas, orientations and mindsets, age, first generation, a lot of different types of areas that come into that. And it's about how to think differently, how to think within your own academic discipline, but also understand that there's other academic disciplines that will provide amazing value to those opportunities. And so it's not an either or approach. It really is that and element. How do you build that in? How do you think about that? To me, it starts at the top. It starts about my time and attention. That's where I spend a lot of time learning about the programs that we have here at all levels, but also participating in all of the elements that add a richness to Central Michigan University and to the environment here. And I encourage all of our faculty and our students to encourage others to take advantage of that, to engage in that, to be a part of the programs that are in existence, to acknowledge what is that livelihood on our campus. A lot of people say there's nothing going on at Central Michigan on the weekends. There's a lot going on.
How do you plan to market CMU to other students, to expand that to other students and make it more attractive nationally, internationally, and bring more students into the university?
Enrollment's one of the key issues that we're facing, and that's the heart of your question, is how do we reverse the trend of enrollment that's been over the last 4 or 5 years. I will first and foremost say, and it's very, very important, there is no silver bullet. It's going to take time, it's going to take energy, it's going to take focus, it's going to take a series of steps and tactics. It is going to require us to think new and fresh about a lot of different things, which we do and do not do. Enrollment is not just about the admissions team. It's not just about the marketing team. It's about all of us of how do we discuss, promote, talk, present, represent, put Central Michigan out there for others to view. It is about making sure that we have rigorous academic programs of extremely high quality that are also extremely relevant to not only to the needs of today, but also the needs of tomorrow. It is also aiming very high and holding ourselves accountable for a sense of excellence in everything that we do. It is also about being, and I used this word before, about being innovative and being bold and taking calculated risk. We know that there are certain aspects that the demographics are fighting against us. The traditional high school graduate over the next 5 to 10 years is a declining market.
Switching topics a little bit. So after Seam Life published a week of sexual assault a couple weeks back, you wrote an open letter to the CMU community, which we published. And
Thank
in
you.
that, yeah, thank you for doing that, by the way. And in that, you talked about a Title IX task force that you were creating. So can you tell me a little bit more about that and
Sure.
when it will be implemented?
Well, let me talk a little bit about the letter first.
Okay.
To me, I think one of the key things that, as an organization, we need to face the brutal truth and the brutal facts that are before us and deal with issues. I am one that will never run away from an issue. It's not in my DNA. It's something that we need to deal with. And sexual assault, sexual harassment on college campuses across the United States is a significant issue. One of the key things that we as a university community, and again, this is faculty, staff, and students, is to ensure the safety of all of our community members. And to me, that was an important time to write such a letter, to express the importance to take on this very, very important issue. That's why I felt compelled to address the issue. So it would have been a lot easier not to. But to me, it was one of those calling points and calling moments of leadership when there is that issue. It is important to take the opportunity time to address it. That's why we did that. The task force is being formed right now. We've received, since writing that letter, I've received numerous letters, notes, phone calls, and other communication from across the campus, across the state and the nation for that matter, and also within the Central Michigan community specifically, about talking about who should be on it, types of the, what audiences and the like, and also individuals. And so what we have done is taken all that information and tried to have an advisory committee that's not so big that it doesn't function, but large enough that it is inclusive. And we are in the process right now of notifying those individuals, and we'll have the first meeting within this month. And they will be set forward on a path and the trajectory to discuss very, very important discussions. Knowledge of the Title IX, knowledge of the policies, knowledge of what happens if there is an incident, who will report to, how it goes, and making sure that people are well aware, providing opportunity times to let us know what we can do better to assist survivors. What can we do better to make sure that the process is fair to everybody concerned? To make sure that, ideally, prevention is. I would love to come back in X amount of years and say we no longer have sexual assaults and harassment on our campus. That would be the ideal goal. But until we reach that, how do we continue to emphasize the importance that this is a community effort with everyone coming together to eradicate this horrible activity?
So can you talk a little bit about your thoughts on institutional transparency and how honest universities should be regarding issues such as crime, sexual assault, harassment, staff and faculty, I guess, discipline issues?
Sure. Transparent is a powerful word, and I think it needs to be clearly defined. Transparency is sharing the relevant information that people need to know to make relevant decisions and to have discussions and make collaborative and collective processes. Transparency is not about providing every little fact that people want to know. It's what do they need to know. Transparency is also about being fair. It is about being professional. It is about balancing legal rights as well as information that is needed for again, for decision making and for the common good. To me, transparency is also about a culture. It is about a level of honesty and also making the right judgment calls at the time. I think with regarding to transparency on personnel issues, there are certain things that we cannot discuss for legal reasons, for personal reasons, for professional reasons, for fairness reasons. It is, and so again, it's how far and how often and how soon those types of things need to be put forward. With regards to crimes and imminent danger situation, that's a whole different discussion point. That's when you go into the safety of the overall campus and the safety and immediate concerns of the campus, the timely warning announcements and those types of things. But I think a culture of providing the information when necessary, when needed, in the essence of collaborative decision making and ensuring that the safety of the campus is held. So transparency is not something that's black and white. It is something that you sometimes need to use a professional judgment. Transparency is also based on certain decisions or certain situations. It goes back again to the key element of making sure that the relevant information is shared in a timely manner, the relevant information is shared that is needed, that the information is shared in a manner that is fair and consistent for all people involved.
Can I give you an example and ask possibly?
You could always give me an example.
Okay. Well, I mean, last year, Jeff Luzias, who is the former dean of libraries here, was fired for sexual harassment. It had been multiple incidents that happened, and then he was finally fired. The only reason we knew about that is because we FOIA'd for the information, and we found out in the press release from the university, it just said that he was being replaced, and there was a new dean of libraries. So in that case, do you think it's important for students to know, for somebody like that who is sexually harassing somebody who's working on our campus, do you think it's important for students to know university is taking a stand on this? They think they shouldn't be on this campus?
Sure. I think that there's several things to to unpack on that particular situation. And I do not know the specifics. I don't need to know the specifics. It happened before me. It happened. To me, it's part of our history and the like. So I cannot talk specifically about that. Not that I don't want to. I don't know the facts. Okay. I think what is part of the transparency element in this is an individual that was removed from our institution, or from hypothetical institution, if you want to use a hypothetical institution on that. It was moved from an institution for something that he did that came out to be sexual harassment. How far do you want that information to go? In doing so, if you release everything, you potentially could release the names and identities of the survivors, and that's something that we don't want to do. You can also potentially get involved in legal issues that are well beyond the scope of the activities that are involved. Again, what's important about the transparency part of this is something happened. The administration took action, and we're going to assume appropriate action. That the person was treated, all the people involved in the incident and the activities were treated fairly and with due respect. How far you go into those personal elements, again, you go into fairness issues, you get into due process issues, you get into conflicting legal aspects, due process at a civil level versus due process for a criminal level, and it's important that we are able to maintain that professionalism for all involved. There is never, in many cases, a clear-cut answer. In many cases, there is never a clear-cut answer in terms of understanding who needs to know the information to make the right decisions. Answers to certain questions in one business decision may be answered in the era of transparency, and other decisions maybe not.
So we're the student media. We're the student media at CMU. And so we're aware that you view our work and we read our work.
How do you know?
Because you told us.
Oh, okay. I was going to say.
So how does being a part of the audience help inform your opinion about the university and the student body?
Reading the newspaper, reading the website, reading the various tweets you put out gives me a deep perspective of what you view as the needs of the university are, the important issues of the day. The important issues. What are the concerns of the students? What are the aspirations of the students? To be honest, I think one of the most enjoyable parts I read are the opinion letters, the
editorials.
The editorials, not the letters to the editor. I'm talking about your part.
Yep.
To me, those are just outstanding, and I think that shows a great deal of insight into the student population. So it's about the needs and the frustrations, the challenges, the obstacles that students face, and it's also about the inspiration. Today's cover story regarding to our non-traditional students, I think that is absolutely inspiring, and the role that the non-traditional students play in the classroom is absolutely phenomenal. I still remember, I think one of the greatest classes I had as an undergraduate was American history when we were studying World War II, when the professor was talking about the invasion on Pearl Harbor and talking about various things that the journal articles and the books and everything else were talking about, and all of a sudden this gentleman in the back row stood up and said, "Well, dear Professor so-and-so, I appreciate your opinion, but that's not how it happened." And then he talked about his life as a 17-year-old when Pearl Harbor was attacked, and listening to the radio and seeing the fear in his mother's eyes when she knew that he turned 18 in a week and knew he was going to enlist, and what happened through his emotional time of enlisting and going through that process. That's the power. And so, so those are the things. I diverge a little bit, but those are the things that I read throughout your newspaper and through your work. So I'm going to turn that around.
Okay.
Now that you know I read your newspaper on a daily basis, or your tweets and your website and the newspaper on a regular basis, how's that going to change your writing?
Oh, I think we're just more aware to not screw up. I mean, we just don't want to screw up because we know that you're going to see it. I mean, it's encouraging and it's helpful because if we know there's a big issue that we might be talking about, let's say in a news story or in our editorial, we know that if we're doing a call to action and we're talking about it, the highest person at the university is reading it. So, but I think it's just very encouraging. And a little scary, but
I don't mean to scare you.
It's all good.
I think it's you know, it I've said this in many different forms. A university runs best, and to a certain degree, this is an example of this, of having constant conversations. The discussion on transparency, the discussion on our enrollment, the discussion on the challenges, the discussion on all the issues facing us as a university, all the opportunities we have. It operates best when we have constant conversations. Your learning as students happens best when you have constant conversations. And sometimes they're 15 minutes, sometimes they're an hour, sometimes they're formal, sometimes they're informal. The newspaper, the journalism, the student media, both the TV as well, is a constant conversation in that it's not face-to-face, but you're presenting your ideas. You're presenting the ideas of the students. You're representing what the students feel and what they're talking about. And I'm able to take that as a vehicle to fully understand or gain glimpses into and to be able to at least hear, see, and get a grasp of those various issues. It doesn't mean I agree with you. That's part of the fun too. I mean, that's why we had the conversation. But it does allow me to say, okay, this is what the students feel about this, that, or the other. It allows me the opportunity time, maybe not through me, but maybe through someone else, to provide a different perspective, to provide a different viewpoint, a different paradigm, a different vantage point to look at the same situation, the same problem, but from something different. And hopefully you'll take that and think about it. And students, I will say too that I talk to students about the newspaper, and they'll talk about something, and I'll provide some other thought or idea, and then you have those conversations.
Why do you think student media is important at a public university?
I think media is important all over. First and foremost, I will put that out there. I think again, student media specifically, and media as a whole, it provides the opportunity for opinions to be discussed. It provides the opportunity for challenges as well as opportunities to be factually discussed. It provides the opportunities to highlight things that need to be highlighted. It provides also the opportunity for us to chuckle at ourselves. It provides us the opportunity to celebrate our accomplishments. It provides us the opportunity to see where we need to do things better. It is a communication tool, and it is one that is extremely important. It holds people accountable. I mean, I'm the president of a university. This is an accountability measure, and I look at the student newspaper as part of that tool. Also, as president, I get to hold you accountable too.
Of course, of course.
So I think that's part of the fun too. But no, I think it's an important role. I think that in my time here, you've demonstrated incredible responsibility. It is a enormous responsibility, and you've handled it very, very well. You have investigated things thoroughly. You've looked at it very objectively, and I think those are important attributes. I think the opinion op-ed pieces have been dynamite. I don't agree with all of them. That's why they're called their opinions. But at the same time, they were done in a manner that was professional, done in a manner that opened eyes, done in a manner to help inform and to establish the opportunities for more constant conversations. So I think you guys are doing an amazing job. Keep up the great work.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Fire up chips.